Folktales TV, the home of timeless stories and hidden wisdom. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's dive into the story for today. Once upon a time, in a quiet coastal village where the sea was both feared and worshipped, there lived a young woman named Clara. She was known for her restless spirit, for while others avoided the shoreline at night, Clara often found herself wandering the sands, listening to the whispers of the waves. The elders warned that the sea was alive, that it chose who to bless and who to curse, but Clara could never resist its call. She felt it pulling at her heart as though invisible strings bound her to the water. One fateful night, when the moon was full and glowing like a silver lantern in the sky, Clara walked barefoot along the shore. Her white dress clung to her legs in the damp wind, and her long hair flew wild behind her. The tide was unusually high, the waves curling in with a sound like whispers. She paused, hugging herself against the chill, when suddenly she heard something unlike the sea. It was music, a haunting, delicate song that seemed to rise from the depths themselves. The melody wrapped around her heart, sorrowful and sweet, pulling her forward before she even realized she was moving. Clara's breath caught in her throat. She should have run. Every story she had ever been told warned her against following strange songs in the night. Yet her feet moved of their own accord, carrying her into the tide. And then she saw it. The water shimmered, breaking apart to reveal a face beneath the surface. At first, she thought it was another girl, drowning, her long hair floating like seaweed around her pale cheeks. But when the creature raised her head fully, Clara gasped. The woman's eyes were too large, glowing faintly with silver light. Her skin shimmered with scales along her arms, and her lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. Where her legs should have been, a long, powerful tail swayed, scattering foam into the air. A mermaid. Clara stumbled backward, her heart pounding in terror. But before she could flee, the song deepened, stronger now, resonating not through the air but through her very bones. It was no longer just a melody, it was a command. Her body stiffened, then obeyed. Slowly, against her will, she walked into the sea. The mermaid's hand rose from the water, webbed fingers glistening in the moonlight. Clara wanted to scream, to turn back, but her voice was gone. The touch was cold and firm as iron when the mermaid's fingers closed around her wrist. With a sharp tug, Clara was yanked beneath the waves. The world above disappeared. Down, down she plunged into the depths. At first, she panicked, kicking wildly, but the mermaid's grip was unyielding. The water burned her lungs and she waited for death, but it never came. To her horror, she realized she could breathe. Each desperate gasp filled her chest with water that somehow turned to air. Clara cried out, bubbles streaming from her mouth, but no one could hear. The mermaid dragged her deeper into the abyss. Strange lights flickered in the darkness, glowing fish darting like sparks, coral reefs shining in hues of violet and green. Shadows of massive creatures moved beyond her sight, and the pressure of the ocean weighed heavily on her body. Still, the mermaid swam tirelessly, carrying Clara farther than she thought possible. At last, they arrived at a cavern carved into the seabed. The entrance gaped like a monstrous mouth, and within it glowed an eerie green light that pulsed like a beating heart. Clara tried to resist, but the current carried her inside. What she saw froze her blood. Dozens of bodies floated in the cavern. Men, women, even children, their eyes vacant, their limbs suspended in the water as though they were dolls. They drifted silently, their mouths opening and closing as if whispering to one another. Clara shivered, instinct screaming that these were no longer truly alive. The mermaid turned to her, her silver eyes unblinking. "The sea chooses," her voice echoed, though her lips never moved. "And tonight it has chosen you." Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. "Chosen for what?" she cried, but her words sounded muffled, lost in the water. Before the mermaid could answer, the cavern darkened. A shadow moved from the depths, vast and menacing. The water grew colder, pressing against Clara like ice. Her eyes widened as a figure emerged, taller than any human, with scales as black as midnight and eyes that glowed crimson. His chest was broad, scarred with glowing symbols, his tail long and powerful, lashing the water with each movement. A merman, but nothing like the legends of gentle sea princes. This was a king of the abyss. The mermaid bowed low, releasing Clara into the current. "My lord, the offering is delivered." The merman's burning gaze fixed on Clara. He swam closer with slow, deliberate movements, each one sending tremors through the cavern. Clara wanted to flee, but the water clutched her like chains, holding her in place. He stopped before her, towering over her trembling form. His voice rumbled like thunder, vibrating through the sea. "Yes, this one will do." Clara's heart nearly stopped. She shook her head, panic rising like fire in her chest. "No, please." The merman reached out, his clawed hand brushing against her cheek. His touch was icy, but it sent a strange heat flooding her veins. She gasped, unable to pull away. His eyes locked with hers, and in that instant, visions crashed into her mind. Storms ripping through ships, blood staining the sea, and a throne of coral crowned with bones. "You will carry my heir," the merman said, his voice echoing inside her skull. "From your womb shall rise the child of tide and storm." Clara screamed, thrashing, but invisible currents bound her tight. The mermaid chanted behind her, a low hymn that grew louder and louder until it filled the cavern. The floating bodies stirred, their whispers rising into a dreadful chorus. The green light flared, wrapping around Clara's body like tendrils of fire. Agony ripped through her. She arched her back, her mouth opening in a silent cry as the water seemed to pierce her veins, her soul. Something ancient, something alien, was being forced inside her. Her vision blurred. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was the merman's sharp teeth glinting in a cruel smile. When Clara woke, she was lying on the shore, the sun blazing above. Her dress was torn, her body bruised, and the taste of salt burned her lips. For a moment, she thought it had been a nightmare. But then she touched her stomach. And she knew. Something was growing inside her. Something not of this world. Her scream echoed across the empty beach, but only the waves answered. Clara could not eat. She could not sleep. Days passed after that night, but the memory refused to fade. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the glowing eyes of the merman, heard the haunting chant of the mermaid, and felt the unnatural warmth that had surged through her body. Worst of all, she felt the changes within her. At first, it was subtle. A flutter in her stomach, too soon to be natural. A heaviness in her bones. A strange coldness in her veins, as though seawater flowed through them instead of blood. Clara tried to convince herself it was nothing more than fear, but the truth gnawed at her. Something was alive inside her. The village noticed her unease. Neighbors whispered when she passed, for she looked pale, her eyes sunken, her steps unsteady. Some claimed she was cursed. Others said she had been chosen by the sea. The fishermen, the most superstitious of all, began leaving offerings at the shore, baskets of fish, shells, and candles floating on the waves, praying that whatever force had touched her would not turn its wrath on them. Clara retreated further into herself, unable to bear their stares. She avoided the beach, though the sea still called to her in dreams. At night, she would wake drenched in sweat, the sound of crashing waves echoing in her ears. Sometimes she thought she heard singing, faint and mournful, drifting through her window though she lived far from the shore. Weeks passed. The changes became impossible to ignore. Clara's skin began to shimmer faintly in the moonlight, as though touched by hidden scales. Her eyes, once a soft brown, gleamed with a strange silver hue when she stared too long into the dark. Most terrifying of all, she could no longer hold her breath like before. One evening, when she went to wash her face in a basin, she slipped, plunging her head into the water. Panic struck, but instead of suffocating, she found herself breathing easily as if the water welcomed her. She screamed and stumbled back, horrified at what she was becoming. By the third month, her stomach had begun to swell. Too fast, too unnatural. She wrapped herself in loose garments to hide it, but the village noticed. The whispers grew louder. Some pitied her, others shunned her. The priestess of the village temple confronted her one morning, her eyes sharp as blades. "What grows inside you is not of man," the priestess hissed. "The sea has marked you. You must cleanse yourself before it consumes you." But Clara shook her head, tears burning her eyes. "It is not my choice. I did not ask for this." The priestess's expression hardened. "It does not matter. The sea takes what it wants, but it will not take this village with it." That night, Clara packed what little she had and fled. She could not stay where every glance was filled with fear and suspicion. She walked alone through the forest paths until she reached a distant coast where no one knew her name. There, she found shelter in an abandoned hut near the water. But the sea had not finished with her. Each night, the dreams returned, more vivid than before. She saw the merman, his crimson eyes burning, his voice rumbling in her head. "You are mine. You will bear my heir. The sea cannot be denied." Clara would wake clutching her stomach, weeping silently into the darkness. And then the cravings began. At first it was fish, raw, fresh from the sea. She would wander to the shore at dawn, catching them with her bare hands, devouring them before the sun had risen fully. Later, it grew stranger. She craved salt water, drinking it as though it were sweeter than wine. She craved seaweed, shells, anything that smelled of the ocean. Her reflection no longer looked human. Her skin glowed faintly, her hair darkened until it shimmered like ink, and faint lines traced her neck, gills. Clara broke down in front of the cracked mirror, clutching her face. "What are you turning me into?" she sobbed, but no one answered. By the 6th month, she no longer dreamt. She heard. The voice of the merman no longer lived only in sleep but in her waking hours. It whispered constantly, coaxing her, commanding her, "Come back to the sea." She resisted, clinging to what little humanity she had left. She told herself she would never return, never let them claim her. But her body betrayed her, drawing her closer and closer to the water. She found herself standing at the shoreline for hours, staring into the depths, waiting for something to rise. And one night it did. The sea split with a roar, and from the waves rose the mermaid who had first dragged her down. Her silver eyes gleamed in the moonlight, her long tail coiling in the foam. Clara staggered back, her heart racing. "Leave me," she cried, her voice breaking. "I want nothing to do with you." But the mermaid only smiled, her voice echoing inside Clara's head. "You cannot fight what is already within you." The child grows strong. He calls to his father. "You will come with me whether you wish it or not." Clara shook her head violently, clutching her swollen belly. "I won't. I'll never let him take my child." The mermaid tilted her head, pity flickering across her strange features. "It is not your child. It never was. You are only the vessel." The words cut deeper than any blade. Clara collapsed to her knees, sobbing into her hands. The mermaid did not advance. She only watched, her expression unreadable, before slipping back into the waves. From that night on, Clara knew she could not escape forever. The sea would come for her, and soon. Her fears proved true when the labor began. It was a stormy night, the wind howling, rain lashing against the hut. Clara doubled over in pain, her cries lost in the thunder. The agony was unlike anything she had imagined, searing through her body as though her very bones were breaking. She clutched her belly, gasping, screaming, praying for it to end. Hours passed, the storm raging outside, until finally, with one final cry, the child was born. Clara collapsed, trembling, her body slick with sweat and seawater though no wave had touched her. She forced her eyes open, dreading what she would see. The child lay before her, silent at first. His skin was pale, almost translucent, veins glowing faintly beneath the surface. Tiny scales shimmered along his arms and legs, and when he opened his eyes, they burned with the same crimson light as his father. Clara choked back a sob, pulling him into her arms despite her fear. "You're mine," she whispered fiercely, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't care what they say. You're my child." The baby let out a sharp cry, the sound high and piercing, carrying unnaturally through the storm. And then outside, the sea answered. The waves rose higher, crashing against the shore with impossible force. The wind screamed louder, the hut trembling as though it would collapse. Clara held her child close, her heart pounding with terror. And then she heard it, the voice. Deep, commanding, unmistakable. "Bring him to me." The door burst open, and seawater flooded in, cold and merciless. Clara screamed, clutching her son tighter. In the waves, a dark shape loomed, growing larger, closer. The king of the abyss had come for his heir. "No!" Clara cried, staggering to her feet, clutching the baby to her chest. "He's mine. You can't take him from me." The water surged, knocking her off her feet, dragging her toward the open door. The merman's glowing eyes burned through the storm, his massive form rising from the sea. He reached out a clawed hand, the storm obeying his command. Clara screamed again, clinging to her son with every ounce of strength she had left. "I won't let you have him." But the sea does not ask. The sea takes. The current ripped through the hut, pulling Clara into the raging water. She fought, thrashed, screamed, but the waves swallowed her whole. The last thing she saw was the crimson glow of the merman's eyes as he reached for her child. And then, everything went dark. Clara's scream was swallowed by the sea as the waves dragged her into the abyss. Salt water filled her lungs, darkness crushed around her, and the world above vanished. She clutched her child desperately, his small body pressed against her chest, as the ocean swallowed them whole. For a moment she thought it was the end, that she and her son would drown together in the endless dark. But the water did not kill them. Instead, it seemed to wrap around her like a cocoon, keeping her alive, pulling her deeper, deeper still. The crimson glow of the merman's eyes burned through the blackness, drawing her toward him. His massive form moved with terrible grace, his long hair streaming like dark fire, his scales shimmering faintly with power. When he reached her, his claws did not tear but closed gently around the baby. Clara screamed into the water, her voice a muffled cry, refusing to let go. But the infant, instead of crying, opened his glowing eyes and stared calmly at the being who had claimed him. The merman's expression softened, pride glimmering in his monstrous gaze. With a sweep of his tail, he carried them through the depths, past forests of coral, past shipwrecks that lay like broken bones, past creatures with teeth sharp enough to split stone. Clara's body trembled with exhaustion, her lungs burning, yet she found she could breathe as easily as if she had been born in the sea. When at last the waters cleared, she saw the kingdom. Towers of pearl and bone rose from the ocean floor, glowing with strange light. Shadows of merfolk swam past, some with scales like gold, others with fins like daggers. They all turned to look at her, their eyes filled with wonder and suspicion. The merman carried her into a vast palace carved from the ribs of some ancient beast, its walls lined with glowing stones and guarded by creatures that seemed half shark, half human. He set her down upon a dais of smooth coral, and only then did he release the child. "He is mine," the merman said, his voice echoing like thunder through the chamber. "Born of the sea, heir to my throne." Clara pulled herself upright, her hair drifting around her face like seaweed. "He is mine too," she said fiercely, clutching her arms around her chest as if still protecting the child. "I carried him. I suffered for him. You cannot erase me." The merman's crimson gaze locked on hers. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, with a low growl that made the walls tremble, he said, "You will remain. You will raise him here, in the kingdom that claims you. The land has no place for what he is." Clara's heart shattered. She thought of her village, of the hut she had abandoned, of the life she had once known. It was gone. She was a prisoner in a world that was not hers. But when she looked at her son, at the faint shimmer of scales on his arms and the strange, calm strength in his tiny eyes, she knew she could not abandon him. So she stayed. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. Clara lived among the merfolk, always watched, always whispered about. Some pitied her, others despised her, but none dared harm her. She learned their language, their customs, their songs that carried through the water like currents of magic. Her son, whom she named Aaron, grew quickly. By the time he could walk, he was already swimming faster than most of the young merfolk. By the time he could speak, his voice carried power, calming storms and summoning fish with a single cry. The kingdom adored him. Clara loved him fiercely, though every day she felt herself fading, less human, more sea. Her skin bore the shimmer of scales, her hair floated always as if underwater, her lungs craved the salt. Yet in her heart she longed for the land. Sometimes she would swim to the edge of the kingdom, gazing upward at the faint glow of the surface. She imagined the stars, the wind, the smell of firewood. She wept silently, careful not to let Aaron see. But Aaron saw more than she realized. As he grew, he began to ask questions. "Why do you look at the surface, mother?" "Because I was born there," Clara whispered. "Because once I belonged to the land." His silver eyes studied her. "Do you miss it?" Her throat tightened. "Every day." Aaron frowned. "Then why don't you go back?" She held him close. "Because I would never leave you." Time flowed strangely beneath the sea. Years passed. Aaron grew tall, his shoulders broad, his tail strong and shining. He was beloved, but he was different, and he knew it. One day, when he was nearly a man, he swam to his mother with a troubled look. "I dream of the sky," he confessed. "Of fire and trees and voices that do not echo like water. I think the land calls me, mother." Clara's heart ached with both fear and hope. She realized then what the Sea King had never understood. Aaron was not just of the sea. He was of earth, and she could not let him be trapped forever in the deep. That night, Clara confronted the merman. "He must know both worlds," she said. "He is not only yours. He is mine as well." The king's eyes flashed. The land would never accept him. They would fear him, hunt him. "You know this." "Then let him choose," Clara insisted, her voice breaking but strong. "Let him decide which world he belongs to. Do not make him a prisoner as you made me." For the first time, the merman hesitated. He looked at his son, who stood silently, his silver gaze steady and unafraid. In that gaze, the king saw himself, and something more. Something that was not of the sea, something he could never claim. The last he spoke, "Very well. But know this, if he goes to the land, he may never return. If he stays, the land will forget him. The choice will cost him either way." Aaron swam forward, his hand touching both his father's clawed hand and his mother's trembling fingers. "Then I will walk both paths," he said simply. "I will not be torn apart. I will be whole." His words carried a strange power. The sea itself seemed to still. The merman king looked into his son's eyes and, for the first time, bowed his head. Clara's tears drifted like pearls into the water. The next dawn, for the first time in years, she rose to the surface with her son beside her. The air struck her lungs like fire, but it was sweet. The sky stretched endlessly above, and Aaron gasped in wonder. The villagers who saw them cried out in fear at first, but when they saw Clara, changed but still herself, they fell silent. She returned to the shore, her son's hand in hers, her heart trembling. Some shunned her. Some whispered. But others listened. She told them her story, not of curses but of survival, not of monsters but of choices. She warned them of storms, healed them with herbs from the sea, brought gifts of shells and pearls. Slowly, the fear turned to awe. Aaron grew into a man who walked the land with strength and swam the seas with power. He was different, but he was whole. And Clara, though she still belonged partly to the sea, found peace. Some nights, when the tide was high, she would slip back into the ocean, her son at her side, visiting the kingdom below. Other times, she sat on the shore, watching the horizon, feeling the wind on her face. She no longer belonged wholly to either world, but she belonged to herself. And that was enough. In time, her story became legend. Some said she was taken by a merman, others said she was blessed by the sea. Some said she was cursed, others that she was divine. But Clara knew the truth. She was a woman who refused to break, who chose love over fear, who carved a place for herself between two worlds. And when the waves whispered her name, she no longer trembled. She listened, she smiled, and she answered, because she was both. And in being both, she was free.